Hi everybody, I'm so excited to be crafting with you today. We are making some very fun little macrame ornaments. So you can make them in lots of different colors and you can use some different materials as well. So I'm going to go through all of our materials. If you haven't gathered yours yet, you can grab them all now and we'll get started. To make our macrame ornaments, we are using a wooden ring. These are from Michaels. They come in lots of different sizes. If you didn't have a wooden ring, you could also use a metal ring. So either style will work. The wooden ring does make it sort of this like little chunkier style. If you use a metal ring, it might be a little bit of a thinner look, but still just as cute. And then we're using rope. So I've got a couple different styles of rope here, different colors. You could also use a chunky yarn if you wanted to. You can use fine, like a fine yarn or even embroidery thread, anything like that will work to make the same style knots that we'll be learning today, but it will require a lot more to fill your ring where you only have to do a few knots of a thicker material. So rope is, I would say, the best option, and then like a chunky, thicker yarn would be the next option. And then after that, you're going to be able to decorate your ornament any way you want. So I've got sticky gems from Creatology. I've got a whole big chunky bag of sequins here, and we can attach those using some liquid craft glue. And I have a pair of scissors to cut all of our rope. And then last, if you wanted to add any other like wooden beads, things like that, you could do that as well. So there's lots of different ways to decorate your ornament once we are finished macrameing it. And that's totally up to you. So you could easily add beads or glitter or anything else that you might have in your craft kit at home. And I think that's everything we're going to be using. So I'm going to flip my camera around so you guys can see my hands and we'll get started. And as Nicole said at the top, if you have any questions on anything, if maybe you're missing a supply or you want an alternative for something, just let me know and we can come up with some different options. Okay, move these little decorative things out of the way since we'll use those at the end. And we're going to start with one of our wooden rings. And these ones are like a 2-inch wooden ring. You can use a smaller or larger style depending on what you might have already had. It just will make the size of your ornament a little bit bigger or smaller. And then for our rope, you don't need a ton. I like to always cut off a little extra just in case. I'd rather have a little bit more and be able to trim it at the end than not quite enough. And I'm actually going to flip this back. A little technique I like to use is to stretch my arm out and kind of hold it from like the center of my chest or right under my chin, and then stretch my arm all the way out to pull my yarn or my rope. And that's going to give you approximately 3 feet. Might be a little bit less with different size arms, of course, but that's a really quick, easy way to give you approximately a yard or 3 feet of rope. So then I like to kind of gather that and pull it again. So I'm unraveling my rope here. And then stretch out my arm. I'm just kind of holding it from that spot and then doing it a second time. And then a third time. This is more rope than you're going to actually be using, but again, easier just to have a little extra, especially you're learning a new knot. Sometimes it's nice to have a little extra instead of having to worry about adding more in. And then I'm going to cut that off. And then we can start by basically folding our yarn in half. So I'm going to take both of my ends of my yarn. I'm going to hold those together, and then I'm just going to kind of drag the yarn in my hand to get it nice and even so that these two ends are in one hand and then this little loop end is on the other. And we're going to go through all of these steps a couple times. We'll make a couple ornaments together so you don't have to feel pressured if you're not sure you missed a step. We'll go through it multiple times. Okay, so to start, we're going to do what's called a Larks Head knot. So I'm going to take the loop end of my yarn or my rope. I'm going to put it through the center of my ring, pull it down, So I have this little loop here, and I'm going to put all of my extra yarn through this loop. So I'm going to grab my yarn through that loop and pull it all. Then you have this little like neck on your ring. Now you should have two tails. You've got two different pieces of rope coming out of your little lark's head knot. And we're going to loop, put our yarn through from the back side of our little ring. And then that's going to create a whole extra big loop here. You're going to pull that little tail through the loop you just made and pull that tight. And that's going to lock that in place. Again, we're going to do this over and over again. So you're going to take the tail of your rope, put it through the back of your ring. And that leaves all this extra rope here. But you're going to pull it through the back so it goes through like the loop of rope you have. So it goes through the back and then pull it through the loop of rope and pull that tight. You can start to see almost a little like braided pattern is starting. And that's going to be the same knot over and over again. So again, I'm going to go through the back of my ring, fold it over, and I've got this like loop here of yarn. I'm going to grab it from the back and pull it through. The back, pull it down. You can kind of spread out your loop here of rope. I'm going to lift up the loop, grab the tail, and pull it down. Once you get the hang of doing this little knot, it's just repetitive over and over again. And you kind of twist your yarn. I like to kind of pull it tight to make sure that it's covering all of my wood. You can see that there's no wood showing between any of my knots here. And it's creating this nice little knotted braid along the edge. You can see, you can also leave some of your wood showing if you wanted to. For our little wreath style ornaments that we're making, we're covering the entire ring, but you could always leave a portion open if you wanted. That's always a fun little element also. But if you start to run out of rope on one end, that's what's great about this Lark's Head knot is we have the entire length that we started with on the other side. So you can just rotate in your hand and start from the other side again. So I'm going to go through the middle and pull it through my loop. Go through the middle and through my loop of extra rope. We're getting closer and closer to closing our gap. And we're just going to keep doing our same little knot here. This is going to be my last one. So again, I'm going to take my rope, go through the middle from the back, pull it through, and then drop it through the loop of excess rope. And then where your two ropes meet, make a nice little knot here. So I'm going to cross these over and just do a simple knot. So crossed over and take my rope from the bottom and go through that loop and tie them together. I'm just going to pull really tight. The tighter you pull, the smoother and flatter you can get this little knot, and it makes it basically disappear. I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to cut off the extra rope. That's also why you want to make sure that knot is nice and tight. And I'm cutting the extra rope off pretty close to the knot, so that again, that basically disappears. And then what I like to do is take a little bit of craft glue that dries clear, and you can put a little bit on this knot. So on these little fuzzy edges where I cut off my extra rope, I'm just going to drop a tiny bit of glue here. You don't need a lot. I have like a little dot. With my finger, I'm going to smush all those little edges of that raw rope down. That's going to smooth it out so you really can't see where you cut the rope, and it's going to add a little extra security to make sure that that knot doesn't come undone. You could also use a Q-tip or a paintbrush if you wanted to. I like to just use my finger, and you kind of smush down the ends, and the rope absorbs the glue. It comes right off of your finger. And there you have your little wreath all wrapped up, looking cute from both sides. And then we can add an additional lark's head on top of this in order to make a hanger for it. So what we're going to do is just cut off about a foot or so of rope. I'm choosing to do it in a different color just to shake it up a little bit. And then I'm going to fold that piece of rope in half. I'm going to grab one end, and the other end I've got this little loop. I'm going to put it through the middle of my ornament, bring it up toward the top, and grab those two little tails and pull it through. And I like to then take that and kind of shimmy it right over the knot to kind of hide that as well. It just makes a really nice clean edge all the way around. So once that's in place, I'm going to take both of my tail where my tails are, I'm going to tie a knot at the top. Extra. And then you have a little hanger that can easily hang on a tree or on a present, on a stocking. You could do anything with that little ornament then. And there you have your first little ornament. You can get creative now. You can add lots of little details if you wanted to do little sticky gems. I love the little Creatology sticky gems. They come in all different colors and styles. They've got hearts and flowers and little circles. And the best part is that got the cute little gem side on one side. The other side is already has adhesive. So you peel off that little white sticker and it will be able to stick directly onto your ornament. And then just give it a good press. And it looks like you've got little ornaments on your ornament. I'm just kind of sticking these at random, kind of flip-flopping between the silver and the gold ones, just to add some variety. But you could also use any sort of bead or rhinestone or sequins, and you can just glue them on. And you can use just regular Elmer's liquid glue or Creatology craft glue will work fine. You don't need a lot, but the rope will absorb it pretty fast. So a little goes a long way. And there you have your little adorned ornament wreath ready to hang. You could definitely do rhinestones on both sides if you wanted to and make it pretty 360. Totally up to you. Okay, so we've made one together. We're going to go through all the steps from the beginning again. So if you've already got the hang of it and you're pumping out your ornaments over there, that's great. If you joined a little bit late and you want to see the steps from the beginning, you came just in time because we're going to start over. So I've got my rope, and as we start at the beginning, I like to use a little trick just to kind of measure my rope against my arm. Again, you can use a ruler if you want to, or anything like that, but I just take the end of my rope and stretch my arm out, and with my other hand, hold the rope kind of just right under my chin. And that gives me about 3 feet or so of rope. And then do that again. So gather where I did it first, stretch my arm out. I'm going to do that 3 times to get about 3 yards. Again, we cut off a foot or so of our rope at the end, so you don't need all of it, but I like to always have a little bit more than less. All right, so once you have your rope, then we're going to use our ring, and we're going to take both ends of our ropes. I've got my 2 tails here. I'm going to hold that in one hand and then kind of smooth the rope, holding both portions of the rope in the other hand. And just kind of smooth it all down to make it nice and even. So I end up with a little loop on one side and my 2 tails on the other. I'm going to take my loop. I'm going to go through the middle of my wooden ring. I'm going to pull it down below, and then you kind of reach your hand through that new loop you made and grab the 2 pieces of rope and pull it through. And then just pull it tight. There you have Looks like a little necktie, little head, and that's called the Larks Head. Okay, so then you have these two little tails sticking out. I'm going to separate these. I'm going to start on one side. I'm going to take the end of my rope. I'm going to go through the middle from the back. So I'm going to go underneath, through the middle. I'm going to pull it. And then all your extra rope here kind of makes a new loop. I'm going to drop that tail through that loop and pull it. I'm going to go through the middle and drop that into the loop and pull that rope down through the loop. And again, you might be using a different material than I am. So many ropes come in different sizes and dimensions, just like a couple different ropes I'm using now. Let's see, I've got this green rope that we're making, but then this red rope, they are not the same width. So this green is much thicker than the red one. And so you might, if you're using a thinner rope, you're just gonna have to do more of these knots as you go, but you'll still be able to cover your ring no matter what. So again, we're going to take our rope, go through from the back, go through the middle of your wooden ring, pull it down, and drop it through this loop, and pull it tight. And you're just going to keep doing the same little knot over and over again. If you do end up with a knot that you don't like, or it feels like your rope got twisted, or you feel like you messed up somehow, you can always loosen your knot and just pull it out. You can undo it and start over if you need to. This is sort of like a wreath shape ornament, but again, you don't have to you make it a actual wreath. The green, I think, makes it look even more like a little winter wreath, but you could do any color. Like our first one was pink, and you can decorate it any way you want to at the end. Now I've got in most of my rope. We're getting our gap closing in here. I always like to kind of take a little pause and look at it. Make sure you like all your knots and you don't have much in the way of any wood showing through. I've only got a little bit left here, a few inches. I always like to make sure that I keep enough that I can tie a knot at the end as well. So I'm going to rotate my ornament in my hand and start doing the same knot, but with the other extra rope. So I'm going to go through the middle and pull down through my loop. So closing in our gap here. And now I've got these, my two tails. I'm going to tie those together. I'm going to cross them over, making a new loop here, and the rope that's underneath this cross, I'm going to go through the top and pull it through. I like to really grab hold and just pull tight. Take your scissors and you're going to cut off the extra rope. And you should have little frayed tails there. We're going to take a little bit of glue. I'm just dropping a little dot of glue right onto the frayed ends that I just cut off. Then just my finger, I'm just going to kind of smooth it down. That's going to seal it, as well as clean up the edges and not make the frayed edges very noticeable. And then you can take the extra rope, if you have any left over from doing all of your knots, to do a little Larks Head holder at the top like this, or you can grab an extra color. So I'm gonna grab an extra color so it's easier for you guys to see as well. A little bit of white here, and cut off about a foot or so. We're gonna fold that foot of rope in half. So you've got two tails at the bottom and a little arch or looped portion at the top. And I'm going to take my loop portion, grabbing both pieces of rope on either side of the loop. Push that loop through the middle of your ring. Bring it up. You can kind of reach through that loop and grab the two tails on the other side and pull it tight. And then at the top, do a little knot. I'm kind of cross these two over to make a loop and pull both tails through the loop. And then pull tight. Pull off the extra so it looks nice and finished at the top. And there you have another little wreath and a little hanger ready to go. And the cool thing about a Lark's Head is you can do it either way. So this little loop that we made here, you can have it face either direction, depending on which side you like. And then we can add some cute little details, like instead of our sticky gems, we can do some cute little sequins. I mean, look at all of the fun, colorful sequins. Pour some out. And now I'm just going to stick them directly onto my wreath using my craft glue. So I'm just going to do tiny little dots. You don't need a lot. And you can do multiple dots to start with. I'm going to do a couple of dots. You can see I just got tiny little bits of white glue there. And then I'm going to grab a sequin with my finger and then just stick it right into the glue dot. And there's different sizes if you're using the same sequin pack from Creatology that I am, which I recommend. It's got fun colors as well as like 3 or 4 different sizes of sequins. So you can really play with all different colors and sizes. Just kind of fun to give your wreath not only lots of shine, but also a little bit more dimension with different sizes. Again, then I'm just going to continue adding a couple of dots at a time. Kind of going with the gold and green and silver color palette here. You can pick any colors that you might want. As you press your sequin down into the glue, a little bit of glue normally will come through that little center hole, but it will dry clear and it won't mess up the shininess of your sequin either, which I think is probably the most important part of a sequin is to be shiny. One more smaller silver one. We have a fully adorned wreath ornament. And did I drop it? It might take a couple minutes for those to dry, but then once they do, your wreath is ready to go and you're just in time for the holidays to turn your wreath into a gift. It makes great little gift toppers as well, and you can do all sorts of fun things with them this holiday season. They're also just great little winter ideas. You can hang them from a door or a backpack even, make it into a keychain. So I hope that you guys enjoyed making your own little macrame wreaths with me. I know I definitely had fun. Thank you so much for crafting with me and with Michaels, and we'll see you soon. Bye.